Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about this case of Celeste Rivas and David, or DV4D, or whatever his stupid name is. Berkey, as I like to call him, because that's his real name, David Burke. What a Burke, what a twonk. Definite candidate for twonk of the year this year when it comes to New Year. What horrible, horrible, horrible man. I mean, the more we find out about this case, the worse it gets. And now I think we do understand why it has taken so long for law enforcement to press charges against, to arrest him and press charges. There was so much to look at. They wanted to get it right. This man has to be, held responsible for his actions, and it has to be done properly. So we can see why it has taken so long. Anyway, so this, of course, is the case of Celeste. Let me put, I think what I'll do first, I'll say my thank yous. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing, of course. And a very special thank you to my members. Tonight we've got members live tonight at 9 p.m. Spanish time. We're just going to have a little chit chat. We're going to talk about whatever the members want to talk about. Could be about cases. It could be about anything. So if you want to join in our members live later on today, please become a member on either of my channels. As of course, I've got two channels, the True Crime Chats and this one, Vicky Marie Chats. Make sure you're subscribed to both, please. And if you want to join in our live tonight, please go ahead. Thank you to everyone that sent me Ko-fis, very kind, very generous, or super stickers. And I'm back on track now for the computer. So I had a little hiatus in the sort of collecting funds, if you like, to buy a new computer, because then my car broke down. So anyway, it's fine now. The car's fixed. Touch wood, toca madera, todo bien, dedos cruzados. That's the trouble with life, isn't it? There's always something coming up. I've been watching a lot of videos on stoicism. You know, that what the Stoics believe, just go with the flow. You know, it is what it is. If you can't change something, you just have to accept it. Because sometimes you feel, oh my God, as soon as you've got one thing sorted out, something else happens, doesn't it? But you know, what can you do? If you're still breathing, you're winning, really, aren't you? So yeah, all these little things are sent to trials. But they're little things, but they're important. But I know there's people out there with much bigger problems. You know, life is a challenge. You could have financial problems, or you could have health problems, mental health problems, relationship problems, or a combination of all of them. You know, you could have had a bereavement, or somebody you know is not very well, or, so there are so many things that can go wrong in life. What can you do but just accept them? If you can't change it, so the thing is, you have to sit and think, can I change it? Is some things in life we can't change, sadly. Some things we can, if we think about it and we can do something about it and we can change it for the positive. But other times we just can't do anything. We literally can't. If you're losing somebody because they're very ill, or if you're ill, or even if you've got financial problems but you can't break out of them for whatever reason, if your pet gets ill or stuff like that, there are things that are beyond our control, and we have to just accept them because we really haven't got any other choice, and appreciate what we have got. So there's what's that saying? Not every day is good, but there's something good in every day. And even little things like getting up in the morning in your own home, being another day, making yourself a coffee, sitting down, having your breakfast, giving your dog a hug, or your kids, or your husband, or your wife. These are all positive things. There's always some positivity. There's a nice sunset, or a nice sunrise, or I don't know, something. Um, Having a little vape. I'm on the vapes at the moment, or some people smoke, or people drink, or a bit of a combination of everything. Even taking rugs. If it helps you, as long as it doesn't harm anybody else. Do you know what? Whatever your, I don't know, way of getting through this crazy world is, I wouldn't recommend drugs. I wouldn't recommend alcohol really, except it's quite nice. But I wouldn't recommend smoking. Eat something nice. Have a bar of chocolate. I don't know. I don't know what it is. We're just, do you know what? We're just like stuttering through life, aren't we? Really. Some days are better than others. But literally, we are. None of us have got a clue really what we're doing, and we just hope. Listen, if all you can do is try not to do any harm to anybody else, I suppose. But sometimes that happens, but we don't mean it necessarily. But we're human beings, we're fallible, and yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I wish I did, but I'm waffling now. I'm really waffling now. So, well, we haven't done anything like David's done, have we? DV4D with his stupid name. Oh my God, this man is making me so angry the more I look into this case. Or not the more I look into it necessarily, the more details that are released. So we went a long time after poor Celeste. Let's have a look at Celeste, because she is the important one, isn't she, in this case? I mean, she's up there in the left-hand corner, but I'd like to put a bigger picture up of her. I know I've got one here somewhere. Celeste Rivas never got a chance even to get going with her life, really. I mean, it's been said now that possibly she first met Berkey when she was only 11 years old. Possibly. We don't know, really, all the details. And she had a relationship with him for several years, but she was just a child. I mean, he's not really, I think he's 21 now. So if we presume that she started a relationship with him 2-3 years ago, he was maybe 18, 19, but he was still a man. He was still legally a man. He was the power in the relationship. He had this burgeoning music career, few years older than Celeste. Easy to turn a young girl's head. With the sort of Hollywood lifestyle, and his pseudo crap that comes out with pseudo intellectual crap, and his crap music and crap everything. But he was getting famous. He was getting popular. He built himself up on TikTok, and I expect Celeste was completely swayed by him when she first met him. And of course, apparently, he went to great pains to groom her, start a relationship with her. But then, do you know what I think happened with Celeste maybe? Well, she got older, didn't she? Girls tend to mature quicker than boys. She spent a couple of years probably in David's shadow, hanging on his every word. Taking drugs with him. It seems like that was going on. David was completely controlling her, probably for quite a while. And then, do you know what? I think as she got older and she got a bit more bolshy, sometimes relationships, you outgrow the other person. And even though she was younger than him, maybe she was that bit more mature. David is a cosseted, pretentious little twonk, isn't he? He's been homeschooled most of his life. I expect Mummy thinks the sun shines out of his ass. And, but Celeste, they called her a troubled teen, but most teens are troubled, aren't they? And she was probably just, running away to be with David most of the time. Anyway, it seems like she got a bit fed up with the way she was being treated. She said to him, but in text, all we're doing is having sex and hanging out. I want more in my life than that. She started getting a bit demanding, and then she apparently, it seems, she found out he may have been seeing other women or girls, and she got a bit annoyed about that. I think she was sort of growing up, wasn't she? She was growing up in a coercive relationship. And David didn't like that, did he? He didn't like it. She wasn't supposed to question him. She wasn't supposed to, if he wanted to see other girls, she was supposed to just accept it. And also, if David is a PDF, so probably what attracted him to Celeste was her youth. And as she was getting older and more woman-like, he's probably on the lookout for another little girl. He doesn't want a burgeoning woman. He wants children, because that's his predilection. That's what he likes. That's who he can control. They're the people that will be convinced by pseudo-intellectualism. Did Celeste start to challenge him, in lots of things, and sadly signed a death warrant in another way? Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. Some of the things that are coming out now, like as well, about how he killed her. I think even worse than him killing her is what he did to her afterwards, because of course he chopped up this poor girl's body and put her in the trunk of his car, and we're finding out a bit more about that now as well. Anyway, hi lovely lurkers, thank you for watching. Hi to replay crew, thank you for watching. And there's a couple of people in the chat, I think. Let's see who's here. Hi Lily, hi Mark, how's everything going with you two? Here in Spain, which is where I'm speaking from, if you don't know, it is 1:20 in the afternoon, more or less. It is a lovely day. It's 21 degrees, nice day. Hopefully I'll get a bit of sun later, and then of course later on tonight I'll be doing the members live. Looking forward to that. Not done a members live for a few weeks. Everything's just been up in the air with the car and everything. Anyway, so I'm glad that I'll be seeing you all again later on today, members. So where are we going with this case? So now it's turning out, not only he lured her to his house, he sent an Uber for her, apparently. Sent an Uber over to get her, brought her to his house. Now, don't forget that part of the charges against David are lying in wait, is one of the extra charges, apart from murder, isn't it? Lying in wait, killing for financial gain. So he was just about to do this mega tour, wasn't he? He was, he'd sort of built up, he'd become quite famous, hadn't he? He was doing quite well, but he was on the verge of, massive fame, European tour, worldwide tour. When all this kicked off, he was on tour in Korea, wasn't he? He was coming to Spain. He was going all over Europe. All this, what was it called? I want to say wilted, but it wasn't wilted. Withered, his withered tour that was just about to happen when poor Celeste was found in his Tesla, which had been, I suppose we better have a look at this twonk. Yeah, there he is, his Harry Styles look, his Sideshow Bob look, and in the middle is his mugshot photo. I think David, he's so thick. I think it's even insulting that he's so thick and he did this crime. You know, he's invited this young girl over to his house, allegedly, um, murdered her with a sharp implement, which we don't know exactly what he's killed her with, but there were two penetrative injuries to Celeste. And then turns out what he's done, and look at this. We've seen it before, but just in case anyone, these are the sort of pictures that were on his Instagram and things. You know, this is a guy who's literally murdered Celeste in foot. He's been around for years telling people what a weirdo he was, openly, really, writing songs like Romantic Homicide, you know, printing, posting pictures of him in a white shirt covered in blood, posting videos of him hiding a body, posting anime videos of murdering a young girl. You know, he's literally talked about this crime for years. And then he thought he'd get away with it. Anyway, it seems that what he did was he enticed Celeste over. I think she got a bit bullshit, didn't she? She got a bit bullshit. She was telling him, look, this isn't all I want in my life, just to be, have it. I mean, it's awful to think that 13-year-old girl is sending a text like that to a partner. All we do is hang around and have sex. I want more for my life. 13 years old. You know, he'd groomed her so well, and that's what they were doing. But a couple of years had gone past, and even a 13, 14-year-old girl is thinking, hang on, there's more to life than this. But David didn't think that, did he? Because he might have been older than Celeste, but in his head he's about 2, I think. I mean, he's just literally a waste of space, isn't he? You know, and all the anyway, people liked him. They liked his songs. I have to keep remembering that he did well. He built himself up on TikTok from nothing, and now he's thrown it all away. So that just shows how stupid he is. So David had everything. But do you know what? Celeste was a danger to him because she was a young girl that not only she'd been groomed and he knew it was going to come out that he was a PDF, but she wasn't going to stay quiet, you know. I think David realised he'd sort of lost control of Celeste a bit. You know, she was going to come out and say these things, speak against him, and he couldn't tolerate that. And that's where this murder for financial gain comes from. He couldn't have you know, telling people what they'd been up to, ruining his reputation. Anyway, it's coming out now that apparently her parents tried to cut off contact. They confiscated her phone so she couldn't contact David. And what did David do? He paid another school child to go round and take her a burner phone so she could keep in contact with him. So he manipulated things that way as well. So, yeah, no, the thing is, if you're a parent and your teenager at 13 is seeing someone you feel is inappropriate, that's likely what you would do, isn't it? Confiscate their phone, ground them, you know, can't go out, can't go and see this person. So what do you do then when the person is, you know, got money and manages to pay somebody else to take them a secret phone so they can stay in contact with them? The problem is when you try and stop your children from doing things, it doesn't always work, does it? Because they'll always find a way around it. I mean, you've got two choices. You know, if your child, and I say child, but if your teenage child, say at 13, 14, says announces they've got a boyfriend who is 18, 19, or anyone that you don't approve of, it might not be a boyfriend, it might just be a friend, and you don't approve of them, and you try and stop your child from seeing them, You know, that can be a bad thing as well, can't it? Sometimes, I don't know, is it better to sort of let them see them, but you be in control of it, like where they can only see each other under supervision, for example? Because if you try and stop your teenager seeing someone, they just start seeing them behind your back, don't they? You know, I mean, that happens a lot, doesn't it? Not only, as I say, with boyfriends, girlfriends, but with friends. I remember when I was a kid, there were friends I wasn't allowed to play with, but I was always off at that to their house. You know, it just didn't stop me going. I'd just say I was going somewhere else. Oh, I'm going to see such and such. I go straight to the house of this person that my parents didn't like. You know, children are headstrong, even young children. So is it better? What is the right? Do you know what? There's no bloody right answer. But anyway, apparently what happened was Celeste's parents did confiscate a phone, and David responded to that by paying another school child to take Celeste a burner phone that she could keep secret and keep in touch with him. Apparently, allegedly, that's what happened. So, yeah, sideshow Bob. He's like an evil, well, say an evil sideshow Bob. Sideshow show Bob was evil, but you know, he's just a cartoon, isn't he? David, he's like the real sideshow Bob, isn't he? You know, like when you get the pictures of sideshow Bob, you know, the cartoon from The Simpsons. He's not a real person, is he? But he's a real person, and he really did this. He really did it. This case. Oh my God. I tell you what, if David wanted to be famous or infamous, people will be talking about this case forever, because the more details that come out, the more horrible it gets. So let's have a look at the details that have come out, you know, and I've got to be careful of going into them in too much detail, because YouTube doesn't like it, of course. So we're going to look at this article in The Guardian. Prosecutors release detailed description of how D4D allegedly killed teen girl. So this is David as he was in the dock at one of his hearings. Now apparently he's requested to be able to wear clothes, you know, normal clothes, not jumpsuit. He's requested a haircut, he's requested this, he's requested that. You know, you just want to say, oh, just fuck off. You're not having any of that. You know, just like you're in prison on very serious charges. Now, of course, he is innocent till proven guilty. Every now and again, I'll have to say that. But you know, he's certainly guilty of PDF. That is 100% certain. And apparently, he had images of Celeste on his phone. Maybe other young people, I don't know, but he definitely had images of Celeste on his phone in compromising situations. So prosecutors described in a new court document how Berkey, I can't even, you know, DV4D, fuck off VD, or VD I'll call him, how VD has been charged with the red rum and S abuse. Oh God, you know, you don't even know what words you can say on YouTube. Of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Allegedly, he fatally STABBED'd her to prevent her from speaking out about the abuse. And the singer, whose legal name is David Anthony Burke, killed Celeste to protect his music career, prosecutors said. He met Celeste when she was 11. 11! Oh my God. And he says that he met her when she was 11, and he began an sex relationship with her when she was 13. Oh, good lad, he waited till she was 13. Oh my God, what a saint he is, isn't he? Oh God, VD waited till he waited 2 years from 11 to 13 before he started the ABUSC of her. Knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career as she had threatened. So, I think Celeste, she got a bit bolshy, didn't she? She got fed up with him. She probably found out he had other girls there, that he was interested in. And sadly for Celeste, she told him this rather than just going straight to her parents or straight to the police. But she would never have expected that he would have done what he did to her, would he? So apparently, very soon after her arrival at his home, he did these penetrative injuries. Now they're saying here multiple times, but I thought she only had 2 STAB injuries. And then he stood by while she bled out, apparently. Stood by and watched her die. A 13-year-old girl that had been in a relationship with, or 14 by then she was, just stood there and watched her die. He stabbed her twice. Once was near the liver, I believe, once in the lung. Not a quick death. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, not saying that's any better, but you know what I mean. No, stabbed her in places where it would have taken her quite a long time to die, to bleed out. What was he doing? Just watching her? Was he saying nasty things to her? I mean, what sort of a monster is this man? Just gets worse and worse. So his legal team, of course, have said he's innocent and he did not kill the teen. His attorneys had asked the judge overseeing the case to block the release of the prosecution's brief, which was denied. God. Prosecutors say that investigators obtained messages between the two from April 2025, and these showed that she was jealous of his relationships with women because the defendant had led her to believe they had a future together. And she had threatened to disclose damaging information about their relationship to end his career. Well, you can imagine it, can't you? You can imagine the conversation. And Berkey, he's not going to put up with that, is he, VD? Because he's got this big tour coming up and he's the big I am. He thinks he's bloody brilliant. If you ever watch him being interviewed, oh my God, he thinks he's God-fearing. He incites the word of God, etc., quite a lot. The Bible and this, that, and the other is one of them. He's a performative Christian. He doesn't believe in Christian values. He just likes talking about it because he thinks it's, everything David does is about David and his career. He's been cosseted, indulged his whole life. And do you know what? He's been he's become famous on TikTok and lots of people liked him. But that, again, you just think, well, he's even thicker because he had the whole world at his feet, really. He had the whole world at his feet. And he thought that he could just kill Celeste. But then he didn't even, he killed her, he cut her up. But then why didn't he hide her remains? What was he doing driving around with her in his car? Anyway, this is what I mean. He's a thick as that. But thinks he's really intelligent. But really, you knock on David's head, this is what you'll get. There's nothing there. except what how great he thinks he is. And probably his mum. Maybe his mum thinks he's bloody brilliant. I don't know. But he's obviously not. He's thick as mince. So, prosecutors say that investigators obtained messages between them from April 2025, showing she was jealous of his relationships with women, as he had led her to believe they had a future together, and she had threatened to disclose damaging information about their relationship and to end his career. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I think Celeste, just get the impression that although she was so very young, she wasn't as stupid as he is, I don't think. I mean, she was daft as far as her relationship with him was concerned. But, most teenage girls would be impressed by someone like David, a singer, a social media star, a big tour coming up, money to burn, Of course she was impressed, but as time went on, she was getting savvier and savvier, wasn't she, as she was getting older? So listen to this. The authorities believe that he killed her the following day and purchased 2 chainsaws that he used to dismember her body in an inflatable pool. So according to the court document, her DNA was found in Bert's garage, and they're saying that he dismembered her in this inflatable pool because there was bits of plastic from this inflatable pool that were found with her body. See how thick he is? Can't even cover his traces. Do you know what I mean? He's thicko. Her decomposed remains were found in September 2025 in the trunk of a Tesla that was registered to him and had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. He was the last one to drive the vehicle, according to prosecutors, and the Los Angeles County medical examiner determined that she died from penetrating injuries and had significant wounds to her torso. The condition of her remains delayed the medical examiner's ability to determine her cause of death, police said. And this is very sad. 2 of her fingers were missing, and prosecutors said that Celeste had Burke's name tattooed on them. So he was obviously intending to dispose of the remains. He removed it. What? And where are those fingers? Where are those fingers that he removed from her? He removed the fingers because they would incriminate him because he had his name on them. Or maybe just because he didn't want her to be identified, but probably a combination of the 2. Where are they? Where are those fingers? Where? What did he do with them? Throw them in the bin? Did he keep them as some sort of macabre trophy? Did he cannibalize them? I mean, we don't know where they are. What a horrible. I mean, let's get this in context, because not only did that, not only murdered her, not only cut her up, not only removed her fingers, but in the middle of all this, he was doing promotional parties for his tour. He was doing interviews. He was releasing music. He was, just carrying on as if he didn't have a dead girl in his house somewhere, because I presume initially she was in his house. I don't know. Where has she been? What's the timeline? How long was she in his house for? When did he put her in his Tesla? Did he drive her around? Fucking hell. I mean, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? It's absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, he removed 2 fingers, David. I think one had his name tattooed on it. I'm not sure what the other one had on it, but then, so he's removed the fingers. Where are the fingers? But then he kept the body. Why did he keep her? I mean, I'm not trying to give murderers ideas, but at the end of the day, if you've killed someone and cut them up, why did he not take her off somewhere to bury her? He's thick, isn't he? He's driving her around in his car and then leaving it abandoned. Did he just, well, it doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't make sense. You've gone to all that trouble of killing someone and cutting off fingers and all those things, and then you just leave her in your car that's registered in your name and abandon it in the Hollywood Hills. I mean, what? Just weird. The whole thing is weird. And he was also in possession of child SEXA images of Celeste. So her remains were found a day after she would have turned 15. Her family had reported her missing from her hometown of Lake Elsinore, about 70 miles away from Los Angeles. She had run away in February and she later returned home again before leaving again. So according to the prosecution, after she was first reported missing, police contacted Burke, who told them he was not aware she was a minor. Fuck off. And he met her only once. That's what he said initially. Didn't know her, he only met her once. Her parents reportedly took her phone away after she returned home the first time, but Burke allegedly paid a friend of the teen $1,000 to give her a cell phone to allow them to stay in contact. So she ran away again and spent extensive time at Burke's home in the Hollywood Hills and travelled with him to Las Vegas, London and Texas. She must have had a passport to go to London, where she met his family. Do they mean London in the UK, or is there a place called London in America? I don't know. A hearing in the case scheduled for Friday has been delayed till late May to allow the defence time to review the evidence. So the defence now is trying to get everything hushed up. It may be that we don't hear much now until the end of May, but I think we've heard enough in a way, haven't we? So there he is. What a twat. What an absolute twonk this man is. The more we find out about him, just the worse it gets, doesn't it? I mean, just horrible. He knows he's cooked, this guy. I felt like when you saw him in the dock, like behind the screen, he looks like he knows, he's cooked. Basically, he's toast. There's so much evidence. And yeah, I think that's why the police have taken so long. Taken so long to get this case, to arrest him. I'm glad they have, because I think they've got all their evidence sorted out. This guy looks, to me, on that photo, he looks defeated. Now, he may come back at his next hearing after he's had his hair cut and got some new clothes or whatever that he's requested. He may come back thinking how's he going to beat this? How's he going to... He's got no chance, has he, really? Just looking at it. I know it's all alleged and it's got to go to court and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. But how's he going to beat this? I can't see a way that he can. So she even met his parents. So on one thing he's saying that when they came round to see if he knew anything about what had happened to Celeste, he said he'd only met her once and he didn't know she was a minor. But then it turns out he'd taken her to see his parents. So there you go. You only meet someone once, and then you say, "Oh, why don't you come and meet my parents?" Now, from what I can gather, I think his brother has spoken out against him, or one of his brothers. Maybe his family. Thing is, as far as his parents are concerned, he is their son no matter what. And I do believe this. I think when your child, adult child, does something terrible, you must, what's the word? You must. I mean, it must be awful, because at the end of the day, you can condemn what somebody does. You'll feel bad that your child has done that to somebody else, but they're still your son or daughter. For both the mother and father, it's hard to turn your back on your child, no matter how old they are or no matter what they've done. And just because you might hate what they've done, I don't know how his parents will feel about this. He's just a cosseted, entitled, just, awful person, isn't he? And in the meantime, he's bloody lecturing us all about God and, appearing at these parties to celebrate his tour and saying, oh, all this. And in the meantime, he's murdered this young girl, cut off her fingers, dismembered her. And he sat there fucking, he sat there telling us what we should think about God on some of his interviews. No? Anyway, unbelievable. Yeah, some crimes are unforgivable. Do you know what? It's the whole combination of everything with this. Now, I'm still not saying it's right, but you'll know what I mean. If he'd been in an argument with Celeste and getting angry and he pushed her over and she died. But that's not how this happened. He planned this. And also, he was in the position of power, he was the older person. He knew, it's just to save his own skin that he did this, because Celeste, it seems, got a little bit bolshy, didn't she? She didn't know her place, did she? Her place was the little girl who thinks David's fucking brilliant and can't do anything wrong. She wasn't supposed to challenge him, was she? She wasn't supposed to say, hang on a minute, this isn't how I want to live my life. Or hang on a minute, I don't want you seeing other people. She wasn't supposed to do that, was she? She's just supposed to know her place, sit there, stay quiet, just make it. She was all about his ego. For men like this, with young girls like that, it's all about them, isn't it, really? They're not, he wasn't going out with Celeste to try and give her a better life, He was like, he wanted a young girl because young girls are easy to manipulate. And probably she was starstruck every time he will have liked that feeling, when she gave him that she was so in love with him. Then as she got a bit older and she got a bit more wiser as well, he didn't like that, did he? That's how it feels to me. He didn't like that. He was probably on the lookout for another 11-year-old to groom, because these PDFs, that's the whole thing, is they like children. So when these children grow up, as children do, they don't necessarily find them so attractive anymore, because all the things that they like about children, like the easy manipulation of children, especially, as they get older and they start challenging them, they don't like that, do they? They don't want that. They don't want someone, if they didn't mind that, they'd have a woman their own age, or a man, because of course we have to remember that PDFs sadly exist in all, it's not only men, it's women as well. So yeah, I think yeah, it seems to me that poor Celeste, she was sort of she was growing up, wasn't she? And that was bringing a questioning of the relationship, and he didn't like it. That's what I think. And then, of course, when she actually threatened him, with exposing him, he wasn't going to have that, was he? He wasn't going to have that. Not going to expose him when he's on the verge of this worldwide tour. And thing is, nobody liked David as much as David likes himself. He is his biggest fan. That's how narcissists are, aren't they? So it's like, what do you mean you're challenging me? Like, how dare you? So he wouldn't put up with that. Anyway, I'd like to know what happened to that poor girl's fingers. Did he keep them? Because was he like a serial killer in the making? Like, if he would have got away with this, I can't see how he could have got away with it because he's driving around with a bloody body in the trunk, isn't he? So, I mean, how thick do you have to be? You don't have to be a criminal genius to know that you don't drive around with a body in your trunk for months and just park your car somewhere, abandon it. I mean, that is not rocket science, is it? You know, if I mean, hopefully you'll never be in the position when you're trying to dispose of a body. But I think it's like rule number one for anyone who watches true crime: you don't have to be a killer. You don't have bodies hanging around in your property, like in your house or in your car. First thing to do is get rid of the body as soon as possible, isn't it? We all know that. You don't have to be a bloody criminal mastermind to know that, do you? Oh, what a thicko. It just always seems worse to me. I don't know why. It's bad enough when anyone becomes subject to a violent crime. Uh, but it always seems worse when the perpetrator is a thicko to me. It's even more insulting. Just think, God, you couldn't even do it right. You're thick. It's even more insulting to the victim, I think. Anyway, I'm glad he's a thicko because the fact that he's a thicko means he's got caught. So I am glad he's a thicko. But poor Celeste. So my thoughts are with Celeste and her family. They tried their best to keep her away. Teenagers are willful. It's hard to stop a teenager doing something. Because once children, get to an age where they don't need you, this is why I always say, like when kids are little, you think it's difficult, but they're under your control, aren't they? Hi, Joanne. Hope you're well. They are under your control at least. You know, you put them to bed at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or whatever time you put them to bed, and they're not going anywhere. You don't have to worry about them then. You might not get much peace in the daytime, but you've got some time where you can relax. And if you do go anywhere, you take your little children with you. You know where they are, you know what they're doing. Then they get to be teenagers. And then they walk out the door, you haven't got a bloody clue where they're going. Because even if they tell you where they're going, you can't be sure that that's genuine. There's many things I've found out since my son's become an adult that I didn't know before about, I don't know, just not mega things, but like, I just remember so I remember him once, well, I don't remember this particular time, but he'd go out, they get to 13, 14, and of course they go out without you. They want to go out with their friends. They don't want, especially boys, they don't want to be with their mum all the time. He wants to be out with his friends. And so they go out. And then I just remember saying once about buses to a certain area quite far away from where we live. They said, oh, yeah, I've been there. And I'm like, well, when did you go there? Oh, well, I went there with I don't know, Tom, I think his name was, one of his friends. I went there with Tom. Oh, how did you get there? Like, oh, we went on the bus. And I'm like, oh, right, okay. No, never told me he'd been there. Been there for hours. Been there to this place. They'd been there for hours. Came home. No, nothing happened. So nothing untoward happened. But what I'm trying to say is, I didn't even know where he'd gone. So, like, if he hadn't come home that day, and I would have ended up having to call the police, so he's missing. And they would have said to me, well, where was he? Where did he go? And I'd say, oh, he's just here around where we live. I didn't know he'd gone off to this other place for hours with his friend. He never told me for years. This is just what I'm trying to say is you don't know what your teenagers do you? Because they get to that point where they're independent, really. Well, it's like that halfway stage, isn't it? So they're still children, really. But they don't think they're children, so they don't want to be with you all the time. They want to be with their friends, but you know that really they're still not old enough to take wise decisions. So it's difficult, isn't it? So you just have to hope, that you've instilled enough common sense in them. But you never know. You just don't know, do you? I know there's lots of things I did when I was a teenager that my parents don't even know about. Didn't know about until they're passed from this world now. Never know now, probably. Probably looking down. Oh, God knows what they're thinking if they're looking down on me and going, oh, is that where you went? Well, that day when you said you'd gone such and such a place, you little liar, But we've all lied to our parents. I think we have anyway. About where we're going and who we're with. Like we'd go to the pub, when we were only 16. But we wouldn't say to my mum and dad, oh, I'm going to the pub with my friends. I remember one of my brothers dobbed me in one time, saw me at the pub, and told the landlord that me and my friends, we were too young. He was that sort of brother. That we were too young, we were under 18, and we got thrown out of this pub. And then I remember another time, I always got found out that I was supposed to be at college, and he ended up going into Manchester to watch a film, Taxi Driver of all films. I didn't want to tell my mum and dad I didn't want to go to college anymore. And my bloody sister saw me on the bus, not even on the same bus, but literally my bus was going one way and she was going the other way on her bus. And she bloody phoned my mum and dad up and said, oh, I've just seen our Vicky on a bus. I thought she was supposed to be at college. I've never been able to get away with anything, honestly. Never been able to get away with anything. Ay, Dios. Anyway, I'm going to go. I'm going to go and have some lunch. So I just wanted to update you on this. It's a horrible case, isn't it? And I think the more details that come out, I mean, this about the plastic swimming pool that he's dismembered her in. I mean, when did he buy that? Was he planning all the time on killing her and cutting her up? And then he's bought this plastic swimming pool, apparently, and cut her up in there. And bits of it were found with her body in his car. So I suppose that's so that the blood didn't go onto the floor, God. Apparently her DNA was found in the garage. So it seems like this plastic swimming pool was put in the garage, the body was put in there, poor Celeste. And then that's where he dismembered her and cut off her fingers, poor girl. That must be awful for the family to know about as well. It's bad enough that their daughter or sister or family member has been killed, murdered, premeditatedly, but then knowing what's happened to her afterwards. I don't know how you'd cope with that, actually. I really don't. But you know what? People do cope, don't they? And they're a stronger person than me, because I can't imagine how you can cope with something like this happening to your loved one. Anyway, the death penalty is on the table for, I hope, I shouldn't say I hope he gets the death penalty. I don't even believe in the death penalty. But the more true crime cases like this one, this is just exceptional, isn't it? It's a real extreme case, this. And yeah, maybe he'll get the death penalty. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think he should get the death penalty? Maybe you agree with the death penalty. I don't know, but let me know. So don't forget, of course, to like, subscribe, press notifications, please. Join us in the members live tonight. You can become a member. Thank you again to those of you who sent Ko-fis and things. If you feel like you can contribute, thank you so much. Yeah, that's it. I'm going. So I'll see you really soon in the next video. Take care, everyone. And justice for Celeste. I think she's going to get justice. But you know what? It won't bring her back, will it? Bless her. Okay. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Look, the dog always comes. You always come up to me, don't you? When she hears me saying, I'll see you soon in the next video. You know then, don't you, that it's nearly over. She comes up for a bit of attention, don't you? Yeah. Let's see if I can show her. I don't know if you can see her. She's there somewhere. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Till then, may your God go with you. Thank you. Bye.